Hi guys, I hope to keep these notes fairly simple and quick. This will be a reminder to a lot of you, so I just want to make sure that if you already know how to do this, that we have it in our notes just in case you forget, because there are so many concepts that we're talking about. So this is going to be converting decimals to fractions and fractions to decimal. And the first thing we're going to talk about is decimals to fractions. And there are a few different ways to do it. And we'll start with the easiest way when we can simplify. So the first step is to read the decimal in the proper way. And what that means is you are reading it not as 0.52, but as 52 hundredths. And what that means is that you can easily write it by taking the decimal place that it's in and make it the denominator. So this is 52 hundredths. It's in the hundredths place. 100 becomes our denominator. And then all you do is take the number and make it the numerator. So 52 hundredths is the same as 52 over 100ths. The last step is to simplify. So 52 over 100 can be simplified. First we'll divide by 2. And that equals 26 over 50. 26 and 50 are not yet simplest form. We can divide those both again by 2. 26 divided by 2 is 13. 50 divided by 2 is 25. I know 13 is a prime number, so I can't actually continue to go unless my denominator is a multiple of 13, which it is not. So the simplified version of 52 hundredths is 13 over 25. This last step is important, especially when they ask you for simplest form. Okay, so that's one way. The other thing that I want you to note is if you have a mixed number. And you're going to follow the same steps. You read the decimal. And our example here is going to be 1 and 2 hundredths. Anything before the decimal is your whole number in the mixed number. So this is telling me that I have 1 whole and 2 hundredths. 1 whole and 2 hundredths. I'm not done yet because 2 over 100 can be simplified. So that is divide by 2, divide by 2. My answer is going to be 1 whole, don't forget to move that whole over, and 1/50th. Often what I see students doing is forgetting that whole number when they're doing their fraction. They forget that it's there entirely. So that must be done. That's again the easiest way. Make sure that you are simplifying. If you have, actually we're going to go to fractions now. I want to keep this simple. If you have a fraction, let's say, okay, let me think about this. There are a couple different ways to make a fraction a decimal. And the first way is to make the denominator into a multiple of 10. So, first way is if you can easily get the fraction to a multiple of 10. So if I have a fraction like 2/5, and I don't mean fraction, I mean denominator. That's the important part, the denominator, to a multiple of 10. I have 2/5. 2/5 can easily be turned into a decimal because the 5 easily gets to 10. The 5 can get to 10 by multiplying by 2. And remember, when I say get to, I mean multiply or divide. We're not adding or subtracting anymore. So if I multiply the bottom by 2, I have to multiply the top by 2. And that gives me 4/10. We know how to read this. 4 out of 10 is 4/10. So I think about my place value, and I know that tenths is right after the decimal, and there's the 4. 4/10 is the same as 4/10 is the same as 2/5. So if I can easily get it to a multiple of 10, 10, 100, 1,000, by multiplying or dividing, it makes it easier to write our fraction as a decimal. Now, if that is not the case, then we must divide. Okay? So, if you can't get your denominator to a power of 10, you must divide. And that's top dog in the house. Okay, obviously I'm out of room, so I have to flip my paper over. All right. Top dog in the house means that the number that is my numerator goes into my little division, and the second number goes on the outside. So let's say I have, let me get a fraction. Well, I'm going to do one from our example earlier, which is, no, I'm not going to do that. Let's do 5/8. 5/8 is a common fraction that you'll see. 8 does not easily make 10, 100, 1,000. So in order to do 5/8, I'm going to divide. 5 goes in the house, 8 goes on the outside. Obviously, 8 doesn't go into 5. So I have to put my 0 and put my decimal point and add a 0. Now I can continue. 8 into 50. 8 goes into 50 how many times? 6. 6 times 8 is 48. Now I have a remainder of 2. I already have a decimal up top, so I add a 0. Again, I know this is review for a lot of you. I also know that some of you haven't yet mastered this skill. So because I have a decimal, I can add a 0. 8 goes into 20 twice. Gives me 16. Remainder 4. 8 goes into 4. D, remember I have to add a 0 next to my remainder. 8 goes into 45 times. So 5 over 8 is equal to 625 thousandths. 625 thousandths. The most common thing that I hear from students is that 5 over 8 is the same as 0.58. It is not true. You cannot easily do that conversion. 5/8 is not 58 hundredths. They do not mean the same thing. 1/3 is not 13 hundredths. It doesn't work. You have to divide. Because remember, this little bar here, that little bar stands for our division. If you have a mixed number, for example, 5.9, oh wait, that's not a fraction, just kidding. If we have a mixed number like 5 and 9/10, sorry, I just gave away the answer. 5 is your whole number, and then 9/10, tenths place, the 9 goes in the tenths place, 5.9. I'll do a harder one since I just blew it by giving you the answer. Let's try one that doesn't have an easy way to get to 10. So let's do 7 and 3/8. I like to work with 8s because they don't easily go into 100. It's more work for us. So 7 is the place before the decimal, and then all we have left is to convert the 3/8. So 8 into 3. 8 doesn't go into 3. I have to put my decimal and my 0. 8 goes into 30. 3 times, I get 24. I already have my decimal here, so I add my 0. 8 into 60 goes 7 times. 8 into 40 is 5. So then I have to put this part, where this 0 is, I actually have 7. So my answer is going to be 7.375. Some decimals are called non-terminating decimals. And those non-terminating decimals mean that they do not end. You can keep repeating and dividing forever. So Miss Rios' rule is only divide until 3 places after the decimal. And then you can kind of round up. So you will have numbers that go on forever and ever and ever and ever. And we don't want to keep dividing forever and ever and ever and ever. It's too much trouble. So I'm going to give you an example, and I'm just going to show you. Let's say we have 2 17ths. That's a weird number. Okay, 17 doesn't easily get to 10 or 100 or 1,000. And we can't divide by 2. So we're going to have to do top dog in the house. So 7/18 into 2, obviously. 17 goes into 20 once. I have 3 left over. 17 into 30, still only 1 time. 2 minus 1 is 1. 17 into 130. What is that? 17, 34, 51, 68, 85, 102, 119, 136. 136 is too much, so it's 7. So 17 times 7 is 119, and 130 minus 119 is 11. So I have 111. Oh, you guys can't see my work. I have 111 left over. I can obviously still keep dividing, but I'm going to not put myself through all of that because it's going to continue. So I'm just going to stop 3 places after the decimal in the thousandths. Because I don't want to torture myself by dividing and dividing and dividing and dividing and dividing and dividing. Okay? And I'm just going to check to see how many places I would have to keep going before it stops. So 2 divided by 17. 2 divided by 17, 0.117647. So tenths, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions. And I probably, on my calculator, it probably goes on and I can't even see it because eventually your calculators stop. Okay, so you can see that I'm pretty close here. Obviously there's a 6 here. That 6 would bump the 7 up to 8 if I were to round. But we're talking about decimals, and once you get past the thousandths, you're talking about less than a penny. Okay, so we round. It's about, and if we're going to write about, we use these little signs. This means about. If I use that, I mean equal, and equal has to be exact. This about, 2 17ths is about 117 thousandths, give or take a few. Okay, so that was our notes for today. I guess I could give you a problem to do. Let me see. I'll give you 2 problems to do. That way you have something to talk about when you come in. Do these. Number 1. Turn to a fraction in simplest form. And if I spelled that wrong, I don't care. It's going to be 45 thousandths. I did spell simplest wrong. S-I-M-P, simplest form. Okay, do that one, and then do this one. Turn into a decimal. Ooh, I'm going to challenge you to see if you can figure this one out. This is my fraction. It's improper, but it's still a fraction. See if you can make it a decimal. All right, we'll talk about it tomorrow.